Hi guys, there is no doubt about the disaster the new Labour government has inherited from the Tories. The NHS on its knees due to insufficient funding, staff undervalued and underpaid, a social safety net cut to shreds, literally crumbling schools and public buildings, a criminal justice system broken that has seen inmates being let out early due to overcrowding in prisons, councils close to collapse due to lack of funding, and the list is endless. However, one Tory policy that could be done away with that would help so many vulnerable families is the ending of the two-child benefit cap. Labour have said that they can't get rid of it due to the costs involved, but will deal with child poverty in other ways. Angela Rayner here spoke about keeping the policy, but you could see it was something she as a person struggled to defend. Have a listen.
I accept that people are frustrated and want to, change a lot of things that the Conservatives have done over the last 14 years, but our inheritance is dire. The Chancellor will set out in the coming weeks more of the situation. She's asked all departments to give them the frank information about what's happened, but we've seen unfunded commitments, we've seen the situation, the crisis in our prisons, so we have inherited a really difficult situation. But all I would say is look at what Labour's history and what we do when we're in government, and as someone who grew up in poverty, I am not prepared to leave office after a Labour government where we haven't made those significant changes, and child poverty is an issue for us, and we're absolutely appalled that children haven't got beds to sleep in at night. This is the 21st century. This shouldn't be the situation we're in, but this is the inheritance that the Conservatives have left us, and we will continue to tackle those issues.
You can hear it, or at least I can hear it in her voice, that she doesn't support the current government's position on the two-child benefit cap. I think she would support getting rid of it, but she has to defend the government's position, and the government's position is, well, we can't afford to get rid of it. But you need to have costing for this, because there isn't an economic argument for keeping it. Children in poverty will be more expensive if you're just focusing on economics. Children in poverty will be more expensive in the long term. There's more pressure on public services. The NHS, for example, due to poor health, if families don't have enough money to feed their children, the children are ending up in hospital. This is an extra cost for the NHS. Schools have to provide clothing or food to poor families because they don't have access to sufficient funding. This is a cost that's been moved from one department to another. There's more pressure, of course, on the criminal justice system because poorer families tend to be more involved in crime. And you end up with a vicious cycle where young people don't have the funding they need. They end up falling into crime. They go into prison. That's a cost for the state. They're released from prison. There are no public services available for them. They go back into prison again. So the way to deal with a lot of these social problems is to deal with poverty. And while Angela Rayner is correct that the last Labour government did a much better job than the Conservatives by a country mile, the situation was very different. We know charities, experts in regards to poverty have said, if you remove this cap, it will lift so many children out of poverty. We understand it's a cost. I prefer to describe it as an investment in people, but it's a cost. You have to have it. If you have it costed, if you say this is how we're going to pay for it, you have to invest in this. This has to be a priority. As I said, it's not just the actual cost on the balance sheet. It's the cost to society, a bigger cost to society that poverty inflicts upon it. And if you deal with poverty at the beginning, then you don't have to suffer all these extra costs later on. I think Angela Rayner agrees with this, but for some reason she has to defend the opposite. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.